My people, we're ready to mount up like an eagle. Stand and fight against evil. A system rigged and deceitful. King.
What's good, family? Welcome to the King Talks podcast, where we're all about the truth, community, and discussing the things you care about. I am your humble host, Sean Slaughter. And on today's show, we interview my good friend, Lavoisier. Lavoisier is the founder and owner of Grow the Heck Up. Grow the Heck Up is a brand that specializes in Christian info edutainment, race, religion, music, culture, politics, hip-hop, and the Bible, as my dude says. On this show, we're going to talk about various things. We talk about music. We talk about politics, particularly Democrats and Republicans. We talk about the inferiority privilege. We talk about an array of things only as me and my dude can. So, saddle up. Let's do it.
My people, we're ready to mount up like an eagle. Stand and fight against evil. A system rigged and deceitful. King, you can hear it when I rhyme. I'm a king, renewed in my mind. I'm a king, I got a different bloodline. I'm a king.
I think even in what you said, and I'm not in disagreement with what you're saying. I just think that we have to acknowledge that there's two forces. What I'm hearing from you is there's one force, us, and I agree, it is us.
Okay.
But I think we have to acknowledge, and here's where we're going. Let me finish the thought. Here's where we're going.
Right.
I think I think the force that was holding us down, or that was oppressing us, or that was against us, I would totally agree with you. I think that force is lessening more and more. I like the idea. I read the article on your site about the the fake racial crimes hoaxes, right? And you probably
hate hoaxes are up,
right? And you gave like a trillion examples, right? It was a really good article. And so yes, I think the idea of you can't do this because you're oppressed, or you can't do this because the man is holding you down, or you can't do this because you don't have those privileges. I think that thinking is incorrect. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I don't deny that there are still those that would not like to see us rise, and sometimes those people are us.
And at the same time, my whole website is devoted to those type of things. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in church with people who I'm overweight and he a personal trainer in the next aisle. We just don't have a conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm broke. He's the financial advisor. And it's almost like the whole brand, Grow the Heck Up, is built to introduce people to things that they might not have otherwise come across that can be extremely beneficial to them. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like it's the same thing. You're not putting this burden on me, Sean, but it's like I got to do that with my little platform, but Revolt gets to pass. Mm-hmm. It's like, dang, bruh. You know, like why does every man have to be out there marching in the street and not the rich, famous, powerful black people?
I'm with you.
Why does the every man with the job got to be out there protesting and standing up with his fists in the air and doing what's positive and knowing what's right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to our celebrities, we act like they just shouldn't know any better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
It just seems so unfair to put that burden on the everyman.
True. I agree with that. I think the funniest thing to me when I watched, I think Nipsey Hussle was an interesting. Mm-hmm. It was just the whole from the killing to the funeral to the approach. It's funny. I think sometimes we don't know how to get out of our way. So in one sense, we condemn murder, and you'll have some of the most gangsterous rappers. Some of the most thuggish, trapping, murderous rappers sending their condolences and asking for justice for Nipsey Hussle, and then drop a song doing the same actions. I
got a song out at the same time.
At the same time, the one thing that I wish didn't happen happened. After the funeral, the processional, or whatever you call it, it gets shot up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like, you know, the Bible talks about, you know, what salt water and fresh water can't come out. can't come out the same place, right? And I think sometimes we do that.
And so let me ask you a question, though, Sean. When
Yeah,
you're
go
done, I
ahead.
want to ask you a question when you're done.
No. Go ahead. Ask the question.
Okay, so that's the same kind of thing. It's like, it's not to give racism a pass in any kind of way. We got articles on Grow the Heck Up about how the opioid crisis highlights white privilege. All kind of articles about racism, how the U.S. government created the wealth gap. All of that kind of stuff I'm with acknowledging. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what kind of moral inferiority do we have about ourselves that we are saying that white people should love us more than we love us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's almost like saying the descendants of people who hurt us should have more compassion on us than us who know each other. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But let me read the scripture for you and tell you a little bit about what shaped some of my mentality. Mm-hmm. Nehemiah 5, king sends him back. He goes back to rebuild the wall. He got favor with the king. His home is in ruins. He's crying. He's weeping. He gets the pass from the king, and look what he finds when he gets back to the hood, lo and behold. It says, and there was a great outcry of the people and their wives against their Jewish brethren. Mm-hmm. For there were those who said, we, our sons and our daughters are many, therefore let us get grain that we may eat and live. There were also some who said, we have mortgaged our land and our vineyards and our houses that we might buy grain because of the famine. Then there were also those who said, we have borrowed money for the king's tax on our lands and vineyards, yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brothers and our children as their children. And indeed, we are forcing our sons and our daughters to be slaves. And some of our daughters have been brought into slavery. It is not in our power to redeem them, for the other men have our lands and our vineyards. And here's Nehemiah's response. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it said. It says, and I became very angry when I heard their outcry in these words. After serious thought, like, hold on, I come back to the hood to free the hood, and the hood is oppressing the hood.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
He said, after serious thought, you guys are powerful and privileged, and you're supposed to be in the same situation as us, but you abusing your brothers. Each of you is exacting you. So I called the great assembly against them, and I said to them, according to our ability, we have redeemed our Jewish brethren who were sold to the nations. Now, indeed, will you even sell your brethren, or should they be sold to us on some, we out here trying to free our people, and you putting them in slavery?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, man, listen, it's the blueprint, man. Mm-hmm. We have to treat our brothers like they know better because they do, and not expect people outside the community to love us more than we love ourselves. Mm-hmm. I'm a black man. I look like a black man, been black all my life. I know what it's like. Coincidentally, now that I'm remarried, interesting that my wife is white and Mexican, and she's had more horrible experiences down here with the police than I have. Now, I'm the black man getting pulled over sometimes. Sometimes I'm riding dirty, paperwork ain't straight, no insurance, little mishaps. And the police are treating me like a fine, standing human being. And now I've become that black guy that's like, well, you sure, honey, that you aren't doing anything? You're like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I don't know. I just, I know that lightens the mood a little bit, but I guess what I'm saying is that, man, like, I just realized how much slack I was cutting my brothers and sisters while expecting and even demanding that people outside of the community have a higher level of morality by loving us and having compassion on us, but not feeling like I could turn to my brother and say, don't kill him. Right, so in other words, hey, white person, don't dislike us. Hey, white person, don't hate us, but you can't turn to your brother and say, don't kill him. You're granting your brother moral inferiority. It's not realistic to me.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I think when
we might have to break this up in parts 1 and 2, brother.
I know, Max. I want to slide into this, and then I want to wrap it up, but there's no way to really slide into this. So then, politically, all right, and just to be clear, there's nothing that you've said that I've disagreed with concerning looking at your brother, taking accountability. I mean, that's my whole entire life, is doing that with my family, elevating ourselves, and then pointing out. I've always said that it's a shame that, every culture has the worst parts of their culture. White people have bad parts of the culture that white people be like, that's their hood, right? Or Asian be like, that's their hood. You know, Mexicans be like, that's their hood. Everybody has their bad parts of the culture. And I've always said it's a shame that the worst parts of our culture have been worn like a badge of honor. The more that we wear those parts of our culture as a badge of honor and define ourselves, then in those ways, then those of us who do believe in education, do believe in being there for our kids, do believe in being faithful to our wives, the more that we look like dinosaurs, the more that we look like we look like the exception to the rule, and it's sad. It's extremely sad. I look at my kids in my classroom. In my school, it's an alternative school. So in order to come to my school, you have to get kicked out of school, or you have to catch a community charge. So so half of my kids have ankle bracelets, and I'm living with this stuff every single day, and it's amazing. I play this little game with myself.
Wow.
I never tell nobody, but I play this little game with myself where I say, I wonder if that kid's father's involved in his life. And so what'll happen is I have all the students' records.
Wow.
And so the kid will come in, and I'll never look at their records. And I'll just watch the kids interact and watch them go about it and so on and so forth. And I'll be like, I wonder about that kid. And I go look at his record. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, I'll be like, called it. That is in his life. Because there's a level of maturity. There's a level of respect for authority. There's a level of being able to do work for certain periods of time without being fidgety or loud, or there's just certain levels of just maturity, I guess is what I can say. Discipline, that come from the dad being there. So all the things you're saying, I totally agree with, and I wouldn't say I hold both positions equally, but I hold both positions without letting go of the other. I say to my because it's 95% boys, 95% black boys that are being kicked out of school and community charged, and I say to them, I say, look, on one hand, you have to go and get an education. You have to be the one to change your family. You have to be the one to change the dynamic in your family. There's nobody else there. If there's not an older brother, an older sister, or whatever, you have to make that decision, and that's hard. There's a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit, and she talked about how it really,
absolutely,
fantastic book, and she talked about how it wasn't the smartest person that she goes to West Point, and she talks about how it wasn't the smartest person that made it through West Point as a cadet. It was the one that had the most grit. And some of our boys don't even realize how much grit that you've had.
The one that persevered,
because of that perseverance. And sometimes what I've realized is sometimes we have to help young black men. I have kids that come from a single family home. There's 10 kids in the house, and they mom smoke weed. Or they come to school because they don't eat. Or all kinds of things. And I say to myself, how do I help this kid? And the only way that I know how to help this kid is by helping him develop his grit, so that he can persevere and he can get to the point where he can make that decision, you know what I'm saying, to say, yes, I'm going to secondary school. Yes, I'm going to go to college. Yes, I'm going to further educate myself so I can change my my family dynamic. But I'm also not blind to tell that kid, hey, look, see, when you go into the community and I go into the community, we're respected in our community because we know how to speak well. We know how to hold ourselves with dignity. We know how to hold ourselves with respect. And I tell these kids, I say, look, man, the way you carrying yourself, you setting yourself up for failure. Don't tell me about the cops harassing you if you on the corner and, you know what I'm saying, you moving in certain ways. I told my kids, I said, if the cops know your name, that's not a very good thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I tell them, yeah, if you're acting in certain ways, if you're acting like a criminal, you're doing criminal activity, you out in these streets like that, there's cats out here that's trying to take you down. Probably as they should. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're doing criminal activity. If you're hanging with the homies, maybe you're not doing criminal activity, but you're here at Enterprise, so you got a track record. Yeah, that's cats trying to get you up off the street. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the way it is. And so you're gonna have to make that decision. You know what I'm saying? And it's not hard because at the end of the day, nobody makes these decisions. You didn't make this decision. I didn't make this decision in a vacuum. We had mentors and we had people that spoke into our lives, and we had those that I just spoke to I'm not gonna mention his name, but he's a foster kid, and I've mentored him probably since like 7th grade. Dude's in Denver, Colorado. He's in the military, and I have a couple of kids like that. But what to say? It takes a village. It really is the village that helps build these kids. But with that stance, and I think people will find this interesting. I'm gonna start with me, so you don't take all the flame. I feel politically,
Right.
I'm in a bind, and here's why.
Okay.
Here's why I feel politically I'm in a bind, and I want you to tell me how you feel politically. I feel politically in a bind. I don't care, bro. You know I don't care. So it's whatever. I'm here for all the smoke.
Right.
Here's how I feel about it. Liberally, on the liberal side of things, on the Democratic side of things, there's this ideology I just don't agree with. I just don't stand for. Some of my ideology would probably consider more conservative. But on the conservative side of the aisle, I don't agree with what most, I think, evangelical pastors have done, is where they voted in somebody irreligious because he's going to stand in some way for our religious beliefs. And even though he may, quote unquote, stand for our regardless of what's being said or what we think is being said, or regardless of what the presidency means to certain people, we're gonna vote that in because we believe that, really, at the end of the day, we believe that Jesus would have been conservative. I don't buy that. I don't flow with that. Are there ideas that I agree with on the conservative side? Sure. Are there some ideas that I agree with on the Democratic side? Sure. I would even agree with one of your posts that I think sometimes, speaking to the inferiority, I do think sometimes Democrats play the inferiority card, and I think it's highly disrespectful. I don't like being talked to like I'm a child.
I always say liberals assume morality, conservatives assume ability.
Say it again.
Liberals assume morality, conservatives assume ability.
Okay.
If you are black, LGBT, you're just good, you're just oppressed, you just need help. If you're poor, it's not your fault. And conservatives tend to assume that people are not necessarily good, but that people can do for themselves and kind of, do what it takes to get where they want to get.
Yeah, pull up by your bootstraps, the American way, to so on and so forth. So where are you on this continuum?
I am absolutely what you would call. Of course, I'm a believer, but you're asking about political ideology. I am absolutely a constitutional conservative. I probably was more libertarian before then. And here's the thing: communist, libertarian, conservative, liberal, those are ideologies, not political parties, right? If you're a socialist, you're most likely to vote Democrat, but there are people who just hold socialist views and don't believe in voting.
No doubt.
If you're a libertarian, you're more likely to vote Republican, but there are libertarians that don't believe in voting either. It's just the ideology. So when I say I'm a conservative, it doesn't necessarily mean Republican, even if I end up lining up with more ideas on that side. That being said, I'm a constitutional conservative. Believe in traditional family, First Amendment, Second Amendment. I believe the Constitution is a dope document. And one of the ways I came to that revelation is because, Martin Luther King used to say, America, we just want you to be what you said on paper. Right?
No doubt.
And
no doubt.
I realized I never read the paper. And I bought into the idea that the paper was bad. I'm like, wait a minute. And so I started reading the paper, got myself a constitution. You know what I'm saying? Start studying.
Of course you did. Of course you got yourself a constitution.
Hip hop don't got the facts. No disrespect, but I don't got time to wait till Little Yachty gets JayZ's age to kick the knowledge, man. It's the age of the internet, man. It's like we got this low standard when these dudes turn 50 and they want to start reading a book or something and then put us on to some game. We like, ooh, word up. Come on, fam. Like, listen, man, we've been reading, you and me both, bro. We've been reading since 20s, man.
No doubt.
Come on, man. I ain't got time to wait for Lil Pump to finally go to the library, brother. I need my knowledge now.
I think concerning that, and then I want to talk just a little bit more about the constitutional conservatism and what that means and how is that lived, right. and because I know, me myself, I'm struggling in that area.
Right.
Simply because I hold certain values, but I don't see a party,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, that necessarily holds those same values. But when we talk about
Agreed. I feel that. I feel that.
you know what I'm saying, when you talk about hip hop, you know, kind of being anti-intellectual, I think the one thing that we have to realize is that hip hop really has become its own religion, whether people want to name it like that or not. Whenever you say for the culture, you're really stating a set of beliefs, a set of ideas. Back in the let's see, probably back in 96, I was in college and KRS-One came to our campus with the Temple of Hip Hop book. It was in 95, I think. It was 95.
Right, I remember that.
And he came with the Temple of Hip Hop.
Wow.
And most people don't even know that he's written a book, a manuscript, whatever you want to call the Gospel of Hip Hop. And you can go online right now and you can type in the Gospel of Hip Hop, and this thing has chapters, it has verses, it has in the beginning, and he kind of paints the picture of kind of hip hop as a savior. And so, you know, when you talk about hip hop, and particularly using hip hop as a moral standard, you are submitting to a gospel. You know what I'm saying? You are submitting to a set of beliefs, and a set of ideas. And I think some of the contradictions that we've talked about earlier, where you have, I always made fun because I said, I remember when JayZ came out with a, and again, I like reading their books. I like hearing their comments. These guys are brilliant dudes. But I found it funny that he had opened up a charity, and it was like against violence or something like that. And I was like, how is that possible?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How's that possible? If you think, I mean, it's almost like somebody opening a charity for you know, abused children that were physically abused, and is a physical abuser. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make sense. Like you have no credentials. You know what I'm saying? You have no validation. You have to be against this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not only in all aspects of your life.
But you know what though, Sean? I don't think that would rock anywhere else.
No, I don't think so either. And I think because
inferiority privilege, brother.
See, but I don't know if I point that to inferiority privilege, because why would that not rock anywhere else? I think it would not rock anywhere else because, well, maybe because the inferiority privilege has become part of the culture, or maybe because if you really think about it, man, and it's the greatest catch-22 in the world. The things that have empowered black folks like Dre and Diddy are the same things that are detrimental to our community. You know what I'm saying? And so, So when you say why is that, I really think, you know, that's the reason. And really, if you want to even take it outside of race and really go to economics, really it's all a money play, and it shows you. I think from Trump's nomination to degradation in hip hop music, at the end of the day, this is truly what capitalism looks like. This is truly how capitalism plays itself out. It doesn't matter how you get to the top. It doesn't matter how money is made. Just get to the top. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's on the backs.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think capitalism allows for greed, but I don't think greed is inherent in capitalism.
Okay,
I think when you look at
I'm with you.
socialist regimes, that you know what I'm saying. And somebody asked, they said it does rock in other places. Look at Playboy. What I mean is that Hugh Hefner never campaigned Trump for being what we play in our headphones every day. Classic example of inferiority privilege. He shouldn't be able to say that, but that's our everyday norm on TV, in our music, in our everything. Why? if it's really that unacceptable. In fact, I say that Donald Trump and 50 Cent might as well be the same person. They got the same mentality. Don't give a what.
All day long. All day long. I think what's interesting about that aspect of Hugh Hefner and Playboy, I think the reason it doesn't fly is because Hugh Hefner never claims that this is the real culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, he never defines white manhood by the things he does with Playboy. Playboy is kind of just something
that's true
that a piece of the culture does. As a matter of fact, Playboy realizes that the rest of the culture, the white culture, or whoever's reading it, but the rest of the culture knows that this is indecent and this is inappropriate, right. And so they kind of celebrate themselves kind of being in the corner. You know what I'm saying? They never use
right.
that to say we
right.
all should be like this. This is how we rock. This is how we get down. You know what I'm saying? In the same way that every black man is a pimp or a player or a hustler.
How about this? How about I saw a tweet that said, a white dude said, as a white man, I have the privilege of being who I want to be without anyone saying I'm being a traitor to my race.
Facts.
Right? There's this monolithic idea of what black should be. And so even on the side of compassion, right? The other side of compassion is that the people who do embrace this mentality are actually hurting other people, though. Mm-hmm. Right? So even these kids that we have compassion on, that we love on, that we teach, that we challenge, if somebody don't get a hold of them, the bullet's going to fly through somebody's window and somebody's going to die innocently as well.
It's going to be a problem.
Right? So there's another side of the compassion that says, hey, listen, as a matter of fact, you know, people always talk about black on black crime. And one of my favorite things, I don't know if I have a favorite thing about crime statistics, but one of my favorite things about the black on black crime statistics from the FBI is that only 2% of black men engage in violent crime. That's a very small number. No doubt. That tells you that our communities are being held hostage by a very small group of people.
No doubt.
You can't treat nobody when it's men standing up like that. You can't treat nobody. You can't treat people's women and children like that when there are men standing up, not allowing this, man.
No doubt. I'm with you. So,
just saying.
Just to kind of wrap this up from this word that we've introduced, that you introduced to the people, the constitutional conservative. All right, you didn't roll this word out. And now,
I'm a conservative for sure.
And now it's
definitely a black conservative.
But I like the constitutional conservative. It has a certain special ring to it. You know what I'm saying? It got a certain
right.
You know what I'm saying? It has a certain preciseness to it. How was that?
Right.
How was that? But before we got cut off, when you said I went and got the Constitution, I said, of course you did, Lavoisier. Of course you went and got the Constitution and read it because you're Lavoisier. That's what you do. I wouldn't expect nothing less than Lavoisier. You like my man, you like my man Scott Lane, man. Scott Lane is my dude. He's a black apologist, and this dude will be sitting there listening to like old talks from like the 1600s, you know, on like apologetics, he's just that history dude, man. So I could definitely see you doing that. Definitely respect for that. How do you live that out in a society where all blacks are supposed to think the same? They're all supposed to vote Democrat. If you vote, let me ask you a question: do you vote, or do you want to say you vote?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And I had to think about it because I've had different seasons where you know what, I never knocked anyone who chose a denomination religiously, even though it wasn't my thing. I just I don't need a denomination, so I never knocked anybody.
Yeah.
Same with I always say I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, but it's like, so now that I have a political denomination, I just feel like I checked the box, and I feel like I'm okay being true to that. And I've had seasons where I voted and seasons where I haven't, so I had to really think about, do I vote? And my answer is generally yes, probably. You look at that. Yes, probably. Yeah, I'm a voter. Yeah.
And since we're being so transparent, I want to say I've probably voted maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. I'm trying to think how old I am. I think I voted 3 or 4 times in my life. And early on, twice I voted Republican. Twice I voted Democrat.
Wow.
More recently.
Wow.
The last time I didn't want to vote.
Right.
Because I didn't believe in anybody.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. And then I was like, well, do I vote like the Green Party or something like that? You know what I'm saying? But is that considered wasting a vote?
Right.
And
right.
we have our ancestors that fought for this privilege. You know, this is I consider voting a high privilege. Now, I do have, you know, my issues with it, like Toll College and you know, how much, you know, is our vote really makes a difference. And I honestly feel that.
Does it count?
I feel that your local vote, honestly, probably holds.
I agree.
Just as much power as your presidential vote. And if you really, really want to make a difference, you know, really it's those councilmen and local elections. Those things have tremendous, tremendous power. And so, well, I guess you kind of just answered the question. On how do you play this out? How does this live out? Last question. What does Donald Trump's? Because I don't want to ask the typical Donald Trump question. What does the idea of Donald Trump say about America or mean to America? Does him being in office say something about America, and does him being in office have a meaning? What does that mean? Is there something that we can? I
think that's layered because there's a huge critique around who he is morally, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I believe, and again, this might be extra deep for some people, you know, so if you don't rock with it, I respect it. But I believe we vote for Donald Trump every day with what we watch and listen to. What that man embodies represents what America is all across the board. From 50 Shades of Grey
very good
to Killer N-word and everything else that we embrace and glorify and love, the titillizing sex, salacious and dirty. Everything we accuse that man of permeates our lives and our society. But then there's another side of the social justice movement, a lot of which is, and here's the thing. I asked people why Donald Trump is racist. I thought Donald Trump was a racist at first, bro. And I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter, but I don't think he's racist anymore. And I believe Donald Trump gave me good reason to believe he was racist. And when I ask people, they don't seem to know why. Their answers are not mine. But after a while, I came to believe that I don't think.
Before you just about to go somewhere, and I want to see if you think the same thing I think.
Right.
All right. So, you just slid right past something. You said, "I don't."
Because we trying to wrap up. So
I know, but you just slid past something. You said, "I don't believe he's racist. I believe that he may want us to think."
No, I don't believe Donald Trump is a racist.
Right, but that wasn't the statement that got me. The statement that got me that you said you think that he may want us to believe that he's racist. Is that what you said, or did I mishear?
No. I believe that the belief that Donald Trump is racist. Right. I believe he's responsible for that.
Oh, okay.
I believe he did things and said things to make us. Not to make it like it's warranted is what I'm saying. The accusation is warranted. But and just to run down the list. And again, when I ask people why they say he's racist, they don't name these things, brother. So here we go. At the RNC, I think it was August 2016 or 2015, Steve Bannon said that his website, the website he ran, Breitbart, was the home of the alt-right. We know alt-right is home to white nationalism these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trump appoints Steve Bannon as like number one.
No doubt.
I was like, okay, that's a dog whistle. I already know what message you're sending. Mm-hmm. The first two appointees, it was Steve Bannon and Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions was so cold-blooded that he had black people getting locked up for trying to vote back in the days. Coretta Scott King said, "Don't let this man be a judge." Republicans rejected him from being a judge. So if those are your first two appointees, my antennas are all the way up.
Okay.
And one of the things that changed my mind about that actually was a book that was meant to disparage Donald Trump. I started reading about how he ended up in the campaign with Steve Bannon and all this kind of stuff, and my opinion began to change. And then I began to just accept that he's somewhat amoral in some things. Like if he can get money with you or do something with you, if it suits it, he'll get with you. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. So over time, I believe he gave us reason to believe that he was racist, but I no longer hold that view.
I believe there's an interview by Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank, right?
Yeah.
I think that's her name. She's the one that does the QVC stuff. And
yep.
I don't believe I can't say it as good as you did. I think Trump is one of the greatest salesmen that we've ever seen. I think he's one of the greatest salesmen that we've ever seen. She says this. She started selling real estate in her 20s at the same time Trump did. They're about the same age. And she talks about her come up as a real estate agent and how ruthless she was. She tells a story. She says this is how ruthless Trump was as a salesman. And she said as somebody that could read people. She said he's the best reader of people. So she tells these two stories. She says one time Trump was hiring some marketing people to market his properties. So he hires Barbara to come in and sit on the board to look at these people. So he parades them in.
Yeah, I think I heard this.
Heard this, right? He parades them in. And finally, this one, he just lavished him with compliments. You're the greatest. You're awesome. You're amazing. We need you. We love you. You're wonderful. And Barbara was like, this guy wasn't even the best of them. But soon, what Barbara realized was that this guy's weakness was that he needed approval, and Trump saw that. So Trump realized that if he gave the guy approval, that he would get half the work done for free. So Trump hires this guy who wasn't the best marketer, and this dude gave about half of that work for free. All right? So that's one story.
Wow.
Another story she talks about is she gets married and her husband is like doing some stuff where he's doing kind of like some deep sea diving, cleaning up tanks. So I can't even understood what her husband did, but he basically was cleaning up the cleaning up the shoreline. She says when Trump first purchased Mar-a-Lago, he needed some stuff cleaned up. There was just some wreckage and things on the sideline, and the husband says to Barbara, "Hey, why don't you call Trump and I'll go and clean it up for him." And she said, "No, I'm not doing this for this guy. You don't owe favors to this guy." And so anyway, he bugs her. So she decides not to ask him to write him a letter. So she writes a letter, crumbles it up, writes another letter, and she's trying to word it without like asking him for a favor by saying, "Hey, my husband does this. Do you want to hire him?" She's trying not to ask him for a favor.
Right.
So she gives him the letter, and he takes the letter, and he says, "All right, cool." So they're on some project together, and he said that Trump boosted her for like 2 weeks. She's the greatest. She's awesome. She's amazing. And the last day of that project, they're talking and going through negotiation, and Trump says, "Hey, guys, you know what? Do you realize that Barbara did not even have the nerve to call me to ask me if I wanted my so-and-so cleaned up by her husband, but she wrote me a letter? And I guarantee Barbara's sitting right there. Hey, Barbara, how many times you write that letter? 4, 5, 6 times? And said Trump deflated the room to the point that she did not continue on the project and didn't get paid. So when she talks about Trump, some of the things that I felt about Trump, especially from the documentary, the Roger Stone documentary, but just in how he moves, one of the illest salesmen that I think that we've ever seen, and I would agree with you. I think because remember, I think he ran as a Democrat. I think he was going to run as a Democrat, but Hillary was running as a Democrat, so he chose to run as a Republican. But that's a whole nother story. The whole racist.
Right. He's giving money to both sides.
I mean, so the whole racist thing and the racial things, like you said, I definitely see those aspects where he's giving us cause. But I almost see it like Roger Stone said that. He said that hate is stronger than love. Hate is more powerful than love, is what he said. And he actually predicted Donald Trump's campaign about 20 years ago. And it really talks less about Donald Trump and more about America. But that's a whole that's a whole another conversation. So look, man, we've been talking forever.
Wow.
Brother, I love you and I appreciate you, man. This was awesome to do.
I love you too, brother.
I appreciate you being honest. Hopefully I was just as honest so that we can both take these social media bullets.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's all good. It is what it is, man.
Right. I just want to say that Jesus Christ is Lord
all day.
And conservatives have better ideas than liberals.
And on that note, that's my dude. Love you, man.
Love you too, good brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the K.I.N.G Talks podcast. You can find out more about King at kingmovement.com. Also, you can subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps or websites. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Peace. Be out.
Yeah. I brought the Kings with me on this one. It's a movement. Yeah. I had a dream. I saw black slaves in 2018, pulling the big king with a crown in the middle, looking like tug of war. I guess they forgot the inheritance of the Lord, dying over streets when God gave him the earth. It's all in the Bible, just do your research. White man's religion, that's just fake news. The cross hit Africa for Europe even knew. This ain't black versus white, this is dark versus light. But racism might distract you from the Christ on sight. So here's the Visine, me and my team. Dark world, but we flipping on a high beam. King, K's for the knowledge, I is to inspire. N for the nurture, the G is to grow higher. Jesus lit the match, so we all on fire. You see a crown under your attire, know you looking at a fighter.
My people, we're ready for mount up